Hello, everyone. Are you able to hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for having me tonight. And thank you for allowing me to invite along a friend and colleague, Perry Karam from the YMCA Immigrant Services, because I thought it would be really helpful for her to talk about the supports that are available for immigrants who are coming into Waterloo region. But before I pass it over to Perry, I'm going to share just a little bit about what we know about what is a really new way of responding to global humanitarian crisis and dealing with what is a large refugee situation unfolding in Europe. And I would also just say that this is happening in the context of a region, Waterloo region, that has a very long history of welcoming and supporting refugees. And so while we're faced with devastating news about what is happening in Ukraine, and now more than 2 million people that have left the country, and facing what the government has said is an unlimited number of people from Ukraine that they will welcome into Canada. I'm confident that despite there's a lot that we don't know, we have the foundations of what we need in this region to be able to support the people who will arrive here. And I'll start with the measures. So I think there's probably many people in this room who have experience of supporting refugees coming into Waterloo region through the Syrian Resettlement Initiative in 2015. And we're also now working in the context of the situation in Afghanistan and welcoming refugees coming to Canada from Afghanistan as part of the federal government's other large ongoing commitment to support for up to 40,000 Afghans coming to the country, together with refugees from all around the world. And what is different about the response to Ukraine is that the federal government is welcoming people to come not through the formal refugee program, but through emergency travel authorizations, temporary residence permits, and a pathway to permanent residency for some of the people once they get here, for those who have families. The use of the temporary visa programs is very different from the traditional refugee resettlement pathways, and means on its face that some of the supports and services that are normally available for newcomers, refugees in specific in our region, are maybe not available to them. But we have been doing a lot of work since the announcement was made to give feedback to the federal government, and Tim Lewis has been very helpful in sharing concerns that we have in the community about, some of the services and supports that are, may not be available to people that we really need for them to be available to people who start to arrive in Canada from Ukraine and here in Waterloo region, and very hopeful that all of that is going to be resolved in short course, so that once people start to arrive here, they're really able to benefit from the full suite of social and community services that are available in the region. We do have a task force in place, like we had when the Syrian refugees were coming into the region, where we are working with our leaders of our big systems across the region, our school boards, our health system leaders, our housing leaders, and others, our immigrant settlement organizations, that we've been working with over the last few months as we support the Afghan refugees coming into the region. And we are now talking about what is needed to respond to the Ukrainians who may arrive in the region, taking into account the different status, and really looking to systems partners to be ready and flexible to be able to support everybody coming into the region, regardless of what their status is. And hopeful that there's lots of solutions that are being put into place, and organizations across the region really digging in to look at what is their capacity, what do they need to do so that they're ready when people are here to be able to give them the services and the supports that they need. So from a community service perspective, I'm really confident that we're going to be able to problem solve to address the needs of families who come into the region as they arise. And I would say every family's situation is different, and so you know, there can be no real uniform response. And in part, we have to just be patient and wait and see, you know, once people start to arrive, what is it that they really need help with. But so yeah, there's many partners who are starting to work on this, and we're connecting with Ukrainian community leaders to help. You know, they're feeling very overwhelmed. They have a lot of questions about the kinds of supports that are available, and trying to put together some information sessions for them with partners across the region to help them try to understand, you know, once people are starting to arrive in their communities, how they can be supported and where are the best places for them to first go in terms of starting to access community supports across the region. We have put up a website for the region, immigration waterlooregion.ca/Ukraine, that we are trying to have as like a very simple landing space for people who are looking for information, and we will continue to update that with things as they change in terms of what we know about, you know, people coming to the region, or how the services are developing. And there's a list there of things that we know anyways people can do to be supportive. And a lot of the things Steph was talking about in her introductory comments, but some of the stuff on that website gives links to, you know, those places in the region that, you know, typically deal with, you know, donated goods, and it's a place where people go to access who are in need of things for their homes, like MCC's Thrift on Kent, the Salvation Army, other organizations. As people come in contact with kind of the formal social services organizations, those are places that they typically direct people. And so we know that the Ukrainian, the Afghan, any other refugees and other people in need in our community will be given information and help to get to those places to get some of the things they need. Just being welcoming and aware of, you know, the very traumatic situation that people are coming from, and, you know, being a good neighbor. It really goes so far in terms of helping, you know, with the experiences of people as they are coming into the community. And most importantly, we have really, really good immigrant service organizations in this community. And so for anybody who might be showing up in Wilmot, to help connect them to organizations like YMCA Immigrant Services, the KW Multicultural Center, because it is their job to help newcomers in our community navigate getting settled here, and they can put a lot of structure around the work that happens to help new people in our community. And I'd like to just stop there and let Perry introduce herself. She's with the YMCA Immigrant Services, and she could share a little bit more about some of the services that they offer and how those are accessible to people in the rural townships.
Thanks, Tara. Hi, everyone. I just want to echo Tara's comment around our hearts and thoughts and prayers are with the people of Ukraine and everyone impacted by war in any community. We have been serving newcomers, immigrants and refugees into Waterloo region for more than 35, I even don't know how many more years, since the 80s at YMCA Three Rivers. So does the Multicultural Center, and we have other organizations like Reception House, like Campus, like even Horizon. There are specific programs offered by many organizations to serve immigrants and refugees in our region. Now, all of our programs are not only serving Waterloo region, but they are diverse in the type of services we offer, also diverse in the way that they are supported or sponsored by levels of the government. When it comes to refugees, when it comes to crisis as what we're discussing today, usually we heavily rely on updates and information from the federal government. Bringing refugees to any community within Canada has been within the portfolio of the federal government. And as Tara mentioned, I do not want to go to details around how people are going to come here to Canada from Ukraine specifically, but I do know we have been in contact with the Department of Citizenship IRCC, Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada. Actually, last week we had a meeting with some folks from national headquarters. They are collecting information. They are working very hard to make sure we are going to be responsive as a country. But what I want to say on this platform for people in Waterloo region to know that we do have a very strong settlement system within our region. Most people might not know about settlement programs that are funded and sponsored by the federal government, the provincial government, regional government, and other donors. When we develop programming, we don't develop programming for one specific immigration category. And I know a lot of anxiety has been caused because of the immigration status that we have heard that the people from Ukraine are going to come, not being refugees. Having said that, we know if they come here and they land, we will still serve them in some sort of way or method. We have amazing programs in place. We have settlement workers working out of our offices at YMCA of Three Rivers, at the Multicultural Center, at the organizations I have mentioned. We offer not only settlement services by informing newcomers and refugees about what they need, about services available to them in the community, referring them to those services, but also we can help them with their language assessment for adults and for school-age children. Our school settlement workers are working out of more than 35 schools within Waterloo region and Pierce County. We are working with 4 school boards. We are working at libraries. We are offering services at community centers. We are very mobile. We can go to places where we're needed. So if you are connected with families once they arrive and you need our services, do not hesitate to contact us. Now, in terms of people after their arrivals, we have no idea at this point of time how those immigration statuses are going to change and what is the feasibility of those individuals to apply for refugee status while after they land. Once that will happen, we do have, again, support system in place to assist those individuals and those families to sponsor and to apply for permanent residency or to apply for refugee status. All of our organizations have diversified funding so we can create a wraparound approach to make sure to help those new Canadians, specifically refugees. And now, having said that, around the wealth of services that we offer, that is in terms of helping them, assisting them with application forms to apply for child tax benefit, registering their children in school, applying for housing applications, legal issues. We also have a lot of social connection or community connection programming in which we match new Canadians and refugee families with and individuals with Canadians who are willing to help. And by offering a few days or few hours per week in their time to meet with those families, to share knowledge and share experience, how to navigate our Canadian systems, how to find their way within the community through our program that is called the the Canada Connect program. We also have a mentorship program in which we are matching those who are ready to work with people from within their field to learn about the steps that they need to take to find employment within their role. And I'm speaking right now only about YMCA of Three Rivers programming, and all of our settlement partner agencies have similar programs or programs that are having different outcomes. But the programs are very, I would say, diverse. We also offer a lot of orientations and group sessions, workshops for about 25 topics that are meaningful and related to anyone who's new to Canada and new to Ontario. So we have orientation to Ontario, but also we have orientation to Canada, to new Canadians. Any topic, how to live in Canada, how to dress for winter, how to prepare your child to go to school, how to obtain your driver license, your tenants and landlords' rights and responsibility. I cannot list them, but we do have information sessions that have been prepared and has been delivered for years, and you will find up-to-date information and community connection and referral to the appropriate organization and agency that is or the system that the client needs to be supported. Okay, I see hands up. Go ahead.
Thanks so much. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Wilmot. Good evening, Waterloo region. My name's Bill White. I'm an engineer. I live in Newmarket. I'm a father of two, husband to a very patient wife who's putting our little ones to bed right now. Thank you to the organizing committee for inviting me to speak, and more importantly, to each of you for being here. It shows you care. I know that this group is still figuring out how you can best help and what help is needed. It's my privilege tonight to share my experience with refugee sponsorship, and I hope it helps you find some clarity in the worthy task you're undertaking. Starting in 2015 with the Syrian refugee crisis, our family church, together with several others, moved through a process that led to sponsoring a Syrian family of 10. And that led to a second Iraqi family of 6, and a third Iraqi family of 3. The first of our families recently took their citizenship oaths, and they are so proud that they were able to do that online. The last arrived in 2019 and are working through the process. All of them are working and going to school, and they're growing and they're thriving here as new Canadians. Your experience will be different than mine because every refugee crisis is different, but I wanted to share some of my transferable knowledge tonight. First of all, it's normal not to have the answers at first. Right now, you have a federal statement that people will be permitted to enter Canada from Ukraine through a streamlined visa process, and we don't know much more yet. And the same thing happened to us. There were broad commitments made, and it took a little time to find out what would be involved. We met as a committee in September of 2015, and our family was expected in December. Funny enough, the weather here was fine, but the weather in Beirut was not, and that's why they came in January of 2016. What you're doing right now is finding out who is interested in your community. You're finding out if you have special skills that might help. Some of them will be used. Some of them might be used in different ways, and that's okay. Your most important attribute is that you've shown up, put up your hand, and shown that you care. So for us, the refugee visa process was the on-ramp to the social programs that we needed to support our sponsored families. Even now, people will probably not arrive at Pearson Airport and walk out of the arrivals gate to nothing. Our arrivals came to us equipped with temporary provincial health coverage and interim federal health and warm winter clothing before they came to us. And right now, various levels of governments are talking about how to build the supports together with agencies so that people can thrive when they arrive. They'll set up basic paths to match people and make sure that people aren't abandoned at the airport arrivals gate. It's good that you've reached out to the Waterloo Immigration Partnership and the Ymca and your other partners. That's a really good first step. They will help you find the local agencies and the like-minded groups to find out what help is needed, and as the systems are put in place, to work in concert with those systems. Be prepared. Some of those systems will be established quickly, and some of them will work about as well as you'd expect for a rush job. Patience and persistence and keeping the goal in mind is going to be very, very important. You're going to want to know what's needed. It's really good to know that you want to help, and everything else grows from that. But how you end up doing that may surprise you as you find out what's needed. We weren't sure how we were going to help at first. In our case, we knew they were asking for sponsors, but we really didn't even know what that meant. Maybe you're going to be collecting materials, maybe you're going to be fundraising, maybe you'll be sponsoring. Those are all good ways. Be prepared for culture shock. This is one that really caught us. You will find that there are many things that you take for granted that you do every day that are not part of the lived experience of the people you're sponsoring. Your family may or may not speak English. They may be big city people coming to a special and strange place called Wilmot in Canada, and that's about what they'll know about. There will be things that they do better than you do. We were astounded by the entrepreneurial spirit that our families brought. There will be things they do very differently. One of my favorites was our first Syrian family explained to us that although they'd run a taxi business, they had never had a driver's license because in Syria, the way things worked, it was actually safer and cheaper to bribe a police officer if they were pulled over. That's not how things are here. And they're going to learn new ways of doing things, and you're going to share those. Your Ukrainians will bring a different set of experiences, and they're going to bring a different set of traumas, and you're going to need to adapt to the surprises they bring with them. As sponsors, part of our job was helping them find basic things like how to move from place to place, how to use transit, how to get a taxi, how to buy groceries, how to open a bank account or find a doctor, how to register their children for school. That was a real success. The children really loved their school, and because of that, they spoke English a lot faster than their parents. But for the parents, it was really tough. They were dependent on us as sponsors, and they were dependent on their children for communication, and that was tough. We were patient, but we were also encouraging, and you're going to need to do some of that. Respect is important, though. I remember, and we had to keep reminding ourselves that we were talking to grown-ups who were tough enough to pick up and move halfway around the world, and that made them unusually brave. Also, a funny sidebar. The first time we took our family apple picking, the first time they were in Canada for the fall, they were really excited. In Iraq, apparently there are pick your own orange groves, but apples are something that usually come from China. Change is normal. Embrace surprise. Our favorite was that we were told we would be told about major medical conditions that needed immediate care before they arrived. Apparently 8 months pregnant was not on that list. So there will be surprises, and we had to help them navigate the whole delivery process very, very quickly while speaking a different language. Your surprises will be different, but they are coming. Remember, this is a long-term commitment. The sad thing for us is that we don't know when Ukraine will be a safe place to return to. And some families may choose to make a new home here, which is wonderful. 2 of our families want to stay. 1 would like to go home to Iraq, but they fear that it may never be safe to do so. The actual sponsorship commitment is shorter, but we still get questions now about how to buy a car, how to get a mortgage, bigger things. And it's really wonderful to see our friends go. You're running a marathon. Remember to be kind to yourself and your team. We couldn't have believed how busy we were going to be and how important it was to delegate and to spread the load, because we all had our own lives that we were busy in. For Meg and I, our joke is that every time we have a kid, we end up sponsoring again. I'm almost there. 30 seconds. Thank you for your interest, everybody. Waterloo region, welcome to my family to Canada in the 50s, and be proud that you're paying it forward. This is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, and there are so many ways to help. Good luck. This will change you, and I wish you the very, very best in what you're doing. Thank you.
I rushed up here since I want to take good advantage of the time available to me. It's not much time. So I'll be as concise as possible. I hope I don't rush too much, and maybe I can answer questions you might have later on. Okay, look, Ukraine is a very large and diverse country. It looks small only with respect to Russia. If you look at a map, you know, Russia is so much larger, it makes Ukraine look small. It's a large and very diverse country with, unfortunately, a tragic history, not only now, but going into the past, but I'm not going to dwell on that. It is, or has been until the fighting started, a very modern country. So it's a European country in many respects, in most respects, a very modern country, but best known for, in terms of the reputation it has, for its rich agriculture, very strong agrarian traditions. Some of you may know about this famous black soil that Ukrainian has a great deal of. It's black soil, which fortunately for Ukraine is also turns into impenetrable mud at this time of year, and that's been bogging down some of the Russian tanks. But again, that's just a detail. But even now, even though Ukraine is a modern country, much of the population has roots in the countryside. And I emphasize that because there is a strong agrarian tradition of roots in the soil, in the countryside. As an example, even to this day, this was particularly true 20, 30 years ago, but even today, many people living in the cities send their children out to the countryside in the summer to be with a grandmother, a grandfather, and so on and so forth. Now, most of the population of Ukraine consists of Ukrainian-speaking Ukrainians, as you would expect. There are also many Russian-speaking Ukrainians, and there's a fairly large Russian ethnic minority. But especially at times of duress like now, these differences don't mean a great deal. Almost all the Ukrainian-speaking Ukrainians also know Russian. Members of the Russian minority typically know Ukrainian. Language has not been, no matter what Russia says, language has not been, and it is not a major problem in society. There are many smaller minorities. A quick example, Mariupol, a city which has suffered a great deal in recent days, actually has a fairly large Greek minority. And these are Greeks who have lived in that region for approximately 200 years. So lots of interesting ethnic minorities. A great deal of religious diversity. The largest denomination is Orthodoxy. So Ukrainian Orthodox, although there are also Russian Orthodox churches there, which are rapidly becoming Ukrainian Orthodox churches as a result of what's been going on. There's a large Ukrainian or Greek Catholic community. They're different from Roman Catholics in the west of Ukraine. And there are many Protestant groups, in particular Baptists, but also Pentecostalists, Seventh-day Adventists, you name it. There are a wide variety of Protestant groups active in Ukraine, and they've actually been growing in size, the Protestant communities. Now, just to move on very quickly to what is the general reputation of Ukrainians? Some of you know people of Ukrainian background or have heard about the experience of Ukrainian Canadians. In Canada, I would say if there is a stereotype, there isn't a very clear-cut one, but of good, solid, honest, and hardworking people. They helped to open up the prairies of Western Canada, where you have many people of Ukrainian background, 4 or 5 generations now living in Canada. And interestingly enough, even in the Soviet Union, Ukrainians had the same reputation of good workers. They drank less than the Russians. They had good technical skills. They had good hands, golden hands, to use a term which was popular at the time, and adaptable. And they had to be adaptable because of the difficult history their parents and grandparents had faced. Again, a quick example. If in the 90s you owned a car, and especially in small towns, there were no garages or good garages to service a car. You had to be a mechanic. If you owned a car, you had to know how to fix and repair it. And lots of people have these very good technical skills, as I call it. But remember, of course, that people will come here, they will arrive here, in many cases, traumatized by their experiences. They don't know, in most cases, a lot about Canada unless they have relatives here who have told them about Canada. And there are some cultural differences. Some of them are relatively minor. Some may be more significant. But, there's not a lot of chit chat, in that part of the world. People don't smile as often maybe as we do, and we try and be friendly even to strangers. There in Ukraine, if a stranger smiles at you, it's seen as something a little bit strange. Why are they smiling? And what do they want from me, right? So, these are relatively minor cultural differences. There are others I haven't mentioned that might be a bit more significant. Family is very important in that part of the world, but again, this is true of most communities. But families are maybe even more important than they are here because you rely on family to get through difficult times, to survive. So it's one of the important survival skills is family. I think that's about all I can say right now. I could say a great deal more, but maybe I can answer some questions later on. Thank you very much.